with the campaign for grade level reading, and she will get us started.
Thanks so much, Leah. Excuse me, and welcome everyone. I am so glad that you could all join us for today's peer exchange learning conversation hosted in partnership with our friends at New America and exploring new and effective approaches for strengthening engagement and building trust with families. The Campaign for Grade Level Reading has long viewed parents as essential partners in improving outcomes and the overall well-being of their children. But what does that actually really mean, and how can schools really engage parents in supporting children's early school success? Too often it feels like the what and the how of family engagement focuses on one-way communication to parents or one-size-fits-all events that don't really reflect the realities of families' lives. Strategies that miss opportunities to listen, to build trust, and to create the kind of authentic relationships that help children thrive. And that's why we are so excited for today's conversation, as we will get to hear from school leaders and learning sciences exchange fellows, I can't say that, who have been working in close partnership with families to co-design and test practical, low-cost strategies for improving communication and strengthening the home-school connection, especially for families who are often left off of traditional engagement efforts. We are very grateful to be lifting up this work alongside New America, and we hope that all of you will walk away from this conversation with new resources and new ideas about the how and the what of family engagement, re-energizing your efforts to engage with families as true partners in their child's learning and development. And to begin that conversation, I'm delighted to welcome and introduce our moderator for today, Lisa Guernsey. In addition to being a close thought partner with the campaign, Lisa is the Senior Director of Birth to 12th Grade Policy at New America, where she also founded and now directs the Learning Sciences Exchange. She is also, I'll just note, the moderator for one of those conversations that we're planning during GLR Week, lifting up kind of guardrails and guidelines that are necessary to ensure that children are protected in their well-being while we are fully leveraging education technology to support their learning. So thank you so much for joining us today and for helping to plan this conversation, Lisa. I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you so much, Sarah. We're really thrilled to be partnering with the Campaign for Grade Level Reading on this peer exchange event. It's a perfect opportunity to really get into some innovative and, like we noted earlier, kind of low-cost solutions, but that take a very different approach than many schools might be taking. We'll go to the next slide. I'm going to be engaging you all in a conversation with our incredible fellows from the Learning Sciences Exchange. These year's fellows, you're going to hear a lot more about them in just a few minutes, but I just wanted to name them now, and then you'll see them later as well. Susanna Beltran-Grimm, Tabitha Marino, Yuling Chang, who is going to be speaking with, she's our partner on this project as director of Pittsburgh and the Parents as Allies program, Tara Garcia Mathewson, and then if you go to the next slide, you'll see Scott Miller with us, Erica Slabonik, Miroslava Rodriguez, and Sheila Thomas. And I can't wait for you all to hear the just really incredible insights that this group has come together to show you all. They've been working together very intensely for the past 9 months in schools, and we're going to be able to show you what they did and how they did it. And then we'll open up a discussion with all of you who are on this webinar with our education leaders across the country. I want you to be thinking about whether these are the kinds of tools and strategies that might work in your district, in your community, whether you're already applying some of these approaches and what you've learned from that, and then how to just, take this further. I want to note that we're excited to be having this conversation for many, many reasons. It's a culmination of the work of these incredible fellows, but it's also, we firmly believe, like a really important time to be lifting up this kind of innovation. The world of public education is under immense stress right now, and there's just a lot of concern about shrinking federal resources and what that might mean at the state and federal, and the state and local level. But there are ways we can think differently, we can use the assets that we have on the ground and work in much deeper partnership with our families, with our school leaders, and with all sorts of learning institutions across the learning ecosystem. So that's one of the things we'll be lifting up today as well. There are many pieces of family engagement, right? There's so many things that have to be communicated between families and everything that they need to know, and they want educators to know about their children. And then there's so much the schools need to be communicating to families about how their schools are going to be working and what educators are hoping to be able to achieve in supporting their children and supporting their students. And what you're going to hear today are some of the ways that the challenge of making that communication work can be overcome with some new strategies. So without further ado, I want to get us ready to see. We're going to have a video to show you all today. We're going to get in a discussion with our fellows. I'll show you on screen here. You see them. They came together for our last summit, which was last year, and that brought all of these new fellows together. And I'll just note that this is an ongoing program at New America that brings together fellows across different sectors. We just really see the urgency in breaking out of our silos and bringing in people who are not just in our schools and not just in our learning systems, but those that are researchers and those who work in media and tech and those who really understand social entrepreneurship and who can be storytellers. And so we're bringing those people together, and you'll hear more about that. And then lastly, if we go to the last slide, I just want to say a big thanks to those who have. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I say a big thanks, I want to note, yes, go to this next slide, that we have some resources for you we'll be talking about, which are our brief that we have just put out this week, What Parents Want, How Policies Can Spur School-to-Family Connection and Build Trust, co-written with many of our fellows, as well as a blog post that provides visual examples by our LSX program manager, Elise Franchino, and we'll put links in the chat so that you can all have access to these materials as well. And now I just want to say thanks to everyone who's been able to make this happen. The Grable Foundation has been an incredible supporter of this cohort of fellows. There's so much that we're learning from the Grable Foundation and the way it's thinking about learning ecosystems in the Southwestern Pennsylvania area and beyond. The Jacobs Foundation has supported this project and this initiative for many years in ensuring that fellows can come together across sectors. And then in this particular project, we were able to partner with Parents as Allies in Pittsburgh, and you're going to hear a lot more about them shortly when we bring Yuling on. But without further ado, let's jump to the video so you all can kind of see what's happening in the schools, see how this work happened over the past year, and then we'll bring everyone back on screen after the video to talk about it.
Over the past school year, we have been conducting an experiment to help solve challenges in schools, seeking new ways to engage parents and caregivers in the life of their children's school. We used a model that has emerged from the Learning Sciences Exchange, a program at New America that brings together mid-career fellows. We had 3 in education leadership, as well as a researcher who studies how children learn, a journalist, a children's book author with expertise in family engagement, and a social entrepreneur who uses tech and media to help children learn. We centered our work in Southwestern Pennsylvania, working in partnership with an innovative program called Parents as Allies, which had already laid a foundation for listening to parents and opening dialogue between parents and educators. Our fellows were able to work together at 3 different schools to take the feedback and ideas from parents and come up with simple yet transformative ways of helping parents and educators communicate and learn from each other.
The first project, the principal there recognized that her community, there were a lot of needs in the community, and while there were a lot of resources available to them, she didn't think that parents necessarily knew how to find all the resources that were there. And so we created a map that included graphics showing what type of resources available, whether it's clothing or food or housing resources, mental health supports.
And then going forward, thinking of next school year, we have a registration packet that all families have to fill out, and, having the map already there. So if you're a new family coming in, you kind of know exactly where to go. Also putting it on the website. So if you lose the map, you can easily access it. And then also having it in different languages, because we have a huge EL population. And we also want them to feel kind of welcome to be able to use the resources.
We were doing some surveys with parents, just how are we doing on parent engagement? What could help you more? What maybe is a need that you have? They were sharing with us that they don't know where to find certain information. And we sat back and we reflected. We were using the Remind app, which is a wonderful tool. We were using Class Dojo. We were using our website. We were using our student information system. We were sharing a lot out there, but we weren't putting the most useful information in one place and staying consistent with that. So we created a flyer, and right now we have folders that go home with our students every night and come back. So we are going to put this flyer in the front of that folder so it's easy access for parents, and there's a QR code on it. They scan that QR code with their cell phone, and we learned that from our parent interviews that they like using their cell phone to find information. And it opens up a Padlet, and that Padlet is separated into sections. We have our school calendar in there. We have our upcoming events on there. We have videos that helps parents access programs from home. It's just a hub so they don't have to look around on a website or look around in folders for papers. Anything that is essential to help their child be successful when they're not in school, or help them feel comfortable and empowered to know how to help their student, is in that hub.
Families are navigating complex lives already with limited time and bandwidth, right? Families think they're working 2 jobs, perhaps even 3 jobs, or they might be a stay-at-home moms having to care not only for children, but perhaps for their families. And I think if we really want to engage with educational tools, those tools must be clear, centralized, and culturally sustaining. And I think really easy to use, right? Streamlining resources can help reduce the cognitive overload, can eliminate redundancy, and can increase the likelihood of the family using them consistently and being more confident in using them.
What we first did was we actually had a roundtable with families that moved in. Together we sat around the table, and I just had the parents throw out ideas. The families had great ideas. One of their ideas was they did not like our calendar. It was a 1-page, black and white, very basic calendar, and that was something that everyone said was like, we've never seen a calendar like that. We don't understand it. So there were 2 prongs that we focused on, all under the umbrella of working with new or move-in families. So the first was our calendar project and taking our 1-page calendar and making it more family user-friendly. The second project that we worked on, also related to new families, was creating neighborhood resources and families that they could go to. So one idea through the design process was looking at homeroom parents, but we found out through talking to families and doing some of our interviews, families felt supported by their child's homeroom teacher and the community that was already there with parents. But what they needed support with was finding resources in the community and meeting new friends and neighbors in the community.
And in order to build and be successful and connect the schools and the families and build that bridge, as we did with Bridge Builders, we have to gain a better relationship with the parents, and again, get their clarity, get their understanding, and meet their needs. So it's important that we listen. That's always important, that we become better listeners and not thinking as administrators or as the people who have the degrees in education that we know it all, because the parents are ultimately the ones who know their children.
Something that I keep thinking about this whole experience is how, from the perspective of social entrepreneurship, it has the same elements as social entrepreneurs always work with. Like there's some social problem you want to help to solve. There's the people that you are trying to help, and there's the product, the solution that you are building. but just by including the people that you are designing for in the process, in the brainstorm, since the inception of everything, it changed everything.
But I had a real aha moment when we were in Pittsburgh and talking to families. And it was just like, oh, this is a huge social capital tool. Like, this is a way to really enhance and increase the social capital of families that are able to participate in this program. In fact, we are planting the seeds for a really big impact down the line.
Great. Thanks so much for helping us run that video. I just want to say another shout out to my colleague, Elise Franchino, who was the director and producer for that with our studio team here at New America. There's a lot in that we can kind of dig into, and we do hope that everybody who's participating is just thinking about, what would this look like in my community? Maybe we're already doing things like this, and then you want to share those out as well. So we'll have some time to engage in that peer exchange soon. But let me right now bring on Yuling Cheng, who has been an incredible partner throughout this process. Yuling, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. But more so, I just think back to the very beginning of this project over a year ago, and you and I were just kind of brainstorming together what would be a way to bring these cross-sector fellows from outside of schools together with those who work in schools to really make a difference and have some fresh perspective. And you had a million ideas from the start, right, of what this could look like. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about Parents as Allies and then how it connects with this learning exchange program that we've pulled together here?
Yes, so thank you for having me. I love talking about Parents as Allies. It's a program that started in 2021 here in Southwestern PA. And the idea behind it is very simple. How can we help families and schools develop a trusting relationship? And so through that work, we started to study the research, in particular, the research that was coming from the Brookings Institution, and understanding what the barriers are. Historically, why has family school engagement not been as high of a priority as it is now? And from there, what we did is we pulled together all these school teams that wanted to participate. So we have 44 school teams across Southwestern PA, and each team is led by a teacher and a parent. And the team is filled out with educators and more parents, and they got together and they talked about what they hope to see happen. But more importantly, they went out and listened to the community. So parents went and interviewed teachers, and teachers went and interviewed parents, and they came back and talked about the barriers and then designed new ideas. And so it's sort of what you saw in the video. It could be new ideas for communication, new ideas for transitions. I've seen open houses reimagined across this region. It could be reimagining how you start a relationship with a new family that may have just moved into the community, whether they are completely new from a different city in the US, or maybe they are an immigrant family that is moving from a different country. And so all of these ideas have been really innovative, and it has got parents and teachers talking in a deeper way and developing trust. So what I love about the LSX Fellows program is now we're bringing in new voices, right? The new voices from the non-educator fellows who kind of look at it with fresh perspective and give us more feedback to improve on what we're doing, because this is a long journey. I always tell people, if you start this work, it does not happen overnight. Trust takes time.
And I just want to note, Elaine, one of the things that was so inspiring to us as we were building the platform for this to work was the guidebook that you all published. It was a year or more ago now, I know, and I think we can put that guidebook, the link to that in the chat so others have access to it. But it is filled with very kind of practical, feasible examples of what can be done in schools and with community and with families, and not necessarily even on school campuses, right? And like all sorts of places across communities. So I highly recommend that, because you'll start flipping through that guidebook and be like, oh, wait, oh, that's a cool idea. Oh, I'd never thought of it doing it that way. And so tell me just a little bit more about, I'm so glad you mentioned Brookings and their research in this, because Emily Morris, who was part of the beginning of Parents of Allies with you is now an advisor with us on the Learning Sciences Exchange. And a shout out to Emily, because I think I saw her attending here. So big shout out, Emily, to your work on this. But when did you start having those aha moments of like, oh, we need to do things a little differently? And was it related to those interviews that you were talking about that you were doing with the parents and teachers?
I definitely feel that the team started having aha moments after the empathy interviews. I think because if you think about how parents and caregivers interact with teachers right now, it's mostly through parent-teacher conferences or when something maybe isn't going well and you need to make a phone call to the principal or the principal calls you. These opportunities that the Parents as Allies cohort started to provide for families and schools together open up the door for them to get to know each other. I know of schools that hosted an event at an outside location in case if school was kind of a scary place for some of the parents, where they could feel like they were in a neutral site and they could just talk to each other. And the aha moment was like, oh, we relate to each other. I love that sports team too, or oh, I love that food, or I love to do that. Oh, my kid plays hockey as well, right? And so parents and teachers started to see each other as people and that they could start to develop a relationship and work together in providing the best learning experience for their child.
So we'll go to the whole group in a minute here, but one last question for you, and that is, as we're thinking about replication, we're thinking about how things like this can take root in other communities. Do you see that potential in this?
Yes, and that's what the guidebook is for. We produce that guidebook to share what we learned through the journey. And when you read the guidebook, you'll read individual aha moments, but you'll also read about things that we had to overcome, some complications that maybe came up, and you're like, oh, how do we look at this in a new way? What I always advise people is to start with the research, look at the guidebook, see what other resources are there, and then start to pull together in a very conscious way the team that can work on this. And the team must be representative of different voices. And most importantly, the members of that team need to feel empowered. It can't be just one leader, right? It has to be co-led by the different parties that are involved.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great model to start with. And then I so appreciated the opportunity to bring in these cross-sector innovators and add into the mix. And, it can become a little nutty at first, right? You've got people from all sorts of different ways of thinking coming together to kind of talk together, many of whom don't work in schools every day, right? And are thinking differently about what's possible. So just thank you again, Yuling, for this opportunity. I'm now going to invite our fellows, all 7 of you, to join us and come on screen. And Yuling, please, if you'd like, whatever you'd like to do, stay and join the conversation. We want to bring you back in for sure later as well. But I'm so glad to have you all with us. This just I'll note from the beginning that this Learning Sciences Exchange really has from the beginning, it's been about exchange. It's been about how people from different perspectives and different ways of thinking in different fields can start exchanging ideas to maybe break through to new solutions. And in this particular case, this is the first time our Learning Sciences Exchange has been planted in a place in southwestern Pennsylvania to be able to do this. And yet our fellows were from all over, and including in Pennsylvania. So I just I'll start with those who are in Pennsylvania, but we may be able to just kind of go around and have each of you also kind of describing what brought you to this program. So like I said, I want to start with our school leaders who are there in the school districts in Pennsylvania who came on board as fellows. It was a pretty competitive process, I'll have to say. Actually, we had hundreds of applications for this. So a big thanks and kudos to all of you for being part of it. Let me go to you first, Scott. Just if you don't mind just describing yourself, where your school is and what brought you to this program.
Sure. I'm a K-2 principal of a suburban public school located around outside of Pittsburgh. So grades K-2, roughly 450 students. And we're a growing community. So I appreciated this opportunity working with parents as allies to sort of learn about, people moving into our school district that didn't start here. So trying to really tap into that and learn from those families how we can make and give them the best school experience being here starting right from kindergarten.
Great, thank you. And Tabitha, I'll go to you next.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Tabitha Marino. I'm the assistant to the superintendent at Newcastle Area School District, about an hour north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We are an urban school district, roughly 3,000 students, and working with parents as allies has been a dream. We know that it's essential for schools not to be able to do everything on their own. Parents are a puzzle piece that we need for student success. So working with parents as allies, we have worked with other school districts and parents just to grab feedback and ideas to enhance our partnerships with parents, which has been wonderful throughout this process. So thank you.
Thank you. And Erica.
So I'm Erica Slobodnik. I am the principal here at Duquesne City School District K-8 school. We are right outside of Pittsburgh, and we are, an urban school district. And our kids, students, and families, they all come with different challenges in our community. And working with the parents and allies has definitely brought collaboration from other school districts for us to kind of come up with new ideas and kind of think about what do our parents need and how can we make that happen, and just kind of learning, about different ideas that we can bring into our school.
Great, great. So now I'm going to go to the 4 fellows who are not rooted in Southwestern Pennsylvania, but we brought into the mix with these 3 school fellows, education leadership fellows. If you can just tell us a little bit about what brought you to the Learning Sciences Exchange, and then we'll go to a broader question for all 7 of you about the problems you were trying to tackle. Let me go to you first, Susie.
Hi everyone. I think I'm gonna use the same question that I've been using forever. Can you all hear me? Hopefully, my sound. Hopefully, it's okay. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and share little of what I know about family engagement, and I think that's what drew me to this fellowship. I'm always been passionate about families, really thinking about how do we support the people that works with the families, whether that is people in the school district, principals, superintendents, family engagement specialists, coordinators, anybody, to really think about how do we understand what families need and want in a way that feels very collaborated. More from like a bottom up than a top down. And so I thought when this fellowship came up, I thought this would be perfect, not only for me to continue to learn from the people doing the boots on the ground work, which is Erika, Scott, and Tabitha, but also from fellow colleagues, new ideas that I can also bring to my own research and kind of continue to do that practice and research emerging. So yeah, so I'm here and very, very happy.
Great. Thanks so much, Susie. Sheila, I'll go to you next, because I know you straddle both research and this world of engagement with families and storytelling. Tell us.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Sheila Thomas, and I'm down in Georgia, Valdosta, Georgia. And I've been doing the work with parents for many years as an educator in K through 12 sectors, teaching all grades, and then also in the college level teaching. And I've seen firsthand the plight of families not understanding what to do to be engaged, and also being a parent myself, the things I had to do to support my sons. So I knew there was a lot of disconnect with families. And so when I saw this opportunity to work with even more families across across the globe, essentially, I knew it was an opportunity that would be great for me to bridge the gap with parents. I've worked with our state superintendent, serving on the parent advisory committee, so I brought that knowledge and just wanted to see what everyone else had to bring so we can, of course, bridge the gap. And that's what we've done over this last year, bridge the gap and created some great resources to support our parents.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Sheila. Miroslava, let's go to you next.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, everyone. My name is Miroslava Rodriguez. I am from Mexico. And yeah, my work is in social entrepreneurship and building ethic apps for learning. It made me realize that parents are a very important part of the equation. That if you want to have any lasting impact in the kids' learning, you need to involve them. And they don't only want, but they are desperate for being part of it and part of the conversation. So having the opportunity to work with all the learning ecosystem was this great experience and opportunity to learn from other people in the ecosystem, and yeah, basically be advised and have talks with the people from the books and the research that I've been reading while building my company. So that was very exciting.
It's always really fun to have an entrepreneur in the mix. It's the way you think helps us all. All right, Tara, let's go to you.
Yes, thank you. I'm based in New York City. I have been covering education as a reporter since 2012. I started in the northwest suburbs of Chicago and then lived in Massachusetts for a while before moving to New York. But since 2017, I've been covering education from a more national framework and kind of crisscrossing the country to look at what's happening all over, what kind of innovations are driving improvement in how kids are learning and academic outcomes. And so this fellowship, I guess, for my work, I do deeply reported pieces of education journalism, and the goal is to help inform how parents are thinking about their kids' schools, how teachers and administrators are making decisions, and how even state policymakers are making decisions about how schools should run. But this fellowship seemed like a way to do kind of an extra piece of service with more direct impact. Sometimes we write stories and who knows what happens. Sometimes readers email me and tell me it makes a difference, but this felt like a really concrete way to use some expertise that I've developed over the last decade and work with other people to really make something that can affect people's lives.
Yeah, thank you, Tara. So as you guys all can see here, it was a really neat group of people, some of you to be able to come together. For those on the call, I'll just lay out kind of how it worked for a second, and then I want to get to the question for you all about the problems you were tackling. Our program is set up with a design thinking model, and so after the fellows got together in person and met each other last year at the end of one of our big events, our LSX Summit for the previous cohort, they met with Christine Malden, who is an incredible design thinking coach who helped to get the juices flowing, help people kind of think through what they're going to be working on together. And then we moved into virtual mode, right? After that, folks went back to their various homes and communities, but got online at least once a month. I think at some points it was almost every week to be kind of going deep on these questions with the help of the design thinking coach. Then we got back together again in person in Pittsburgh after several months of that online work to test things out and figure out what's really going to be of use. Do some of the designs make sense? So I say all that, that's very kind of vague because you're probably like, well, what was the thing that they were designing? What was the problem, right? And you got a little bit of a hint of that, of course, in the video. But let me go open up the question of what were the problems that you really wanted to try to solve? And I know we talked about it a little bit at the front end here. Obviously, it's hard to work with. It can be hard to have these partnerships evolve and working with families and teachers both. But were there some more specific things you were really trying to get at? And so maybe Tabitha, Scott, Erica, if you want to just add a little bit more in there on the problems you were solving in your communities.
So I know at Duquesne, right? Like, so we believe that, there's a strong family community engagement and it's essential for the student success. And we want to create a true partnership with everybody in our community. We want them to feel valued, empowered. have a voice in our school. So with our school district, you know, a lot of our families come with trauma, our students, there's a lot happening in our community. And we kind of wanted a place where families were able to kind of get resources basically all in one place. So yes, there's resources out there, but a lot of our families, you know, they don't know where to go. And you know, and to go to this place and this, you know, I wanted to kind of narrow it down. So kind of listen to the families, kind of like what they wanted. So we created a kind of like a community resource map where families can kind of see what resources are available in our community here at Duquesne, but also right outside of Duquesne. We also have a huge EL population. Majority of our families speak Arabic, but we do have some other languages. So we're always trying to want everybody to feel welcomed and belong in our school. So we also kind of translated all of the map, like the map and the resources in other languages. So that way all families are able to like access kind of everything. We have a printed version, we have a digital, we have it on our website. So it's very easy access for families to kind of see what is out there. And we also use visual icons, kind of like a key to for any families who might not have been able, you know, to read. And we do have a QR code, so they can also just scan it from their phone too, if need be. Just trying to think of other ways to get the communication and resources out to all families.
Yeah, Tabitha and Scott.
I can piggyback that with, we have the same values as Erica, that we need those trusting relationships with our parents. We found through working with Parents as Allies for the last couple years that we kind of put our parents in different categories. We are a transient district. So we have a lot of new families to our district. Those new families, they might not know what's going on. They might not know what's available to them. They might not know the teachers to feel comfortable coming into the building. We have the families that their kids are involved in athletics. They come to all the sporting events, they see the faces, they feel like they're okay. And then we also have families that have a perceived negative experience of their own school. So they might not feel welcome coming in. They might not want to talk or join into the classrooms or with the academic experience. So when we started working with this, we're like, okay, we need to build trusting relationships with all of these parents. So at my school, we set the motto the last couple of years, we need to continue to involve we need to continue to inform, involve, and engage parents. And the informs the very basic of it. It's the communication that we're putting out. Working with interviewing and talking to parents, we learned we had a communication issue. We were putting way too much stuff out there, using way too many modes of communication. We needed to streamline it because we were confusing our parents, or they didn't know where to look, so they didn't feel like we were telling them anything. So we came up with the QR code where we talk to families, we talk to teachers. What's the basic things? What's the most important information that we could put in one place to help parents feel like they know what's going on, build those trusting relationships, and engage them in their students' academic experience? And that's where the QR code came from. We have our upcoming events on there. We have our weekly newsletters on there. By doing that, we can focus the parents in one area so they know what's going out there. We can build those relationships, and then we can work together more for the ultimate goal of that student success. So that's where it came from. The very basic. We didn't have to get fancy. We had to go back to the basics of communication, and we had to fix it because that's the most important part to build those trusting relationships needed with all of our families. Our families are all different, and whether they're new to the district or they've always been there, we have to communicate effectively with them to make them feel welcome, valued part of our team.
Yeah, thanks, Tiff. And I wanted to note, because I didn't know it was just put in the chat. Thanks, Sarah, for that. That it was at one particular elementary school, the Lockley Early Learning Center, that Tabitha kind of focused this work.
We did.
Yeah.
The neat thing about it is that we just kind of showed a few people in the other building. We had a 3-5 building, and they're already on it for next year that this is wonderful. We want to continue this. So we felt very happy about that other people have seen it, want to do it, put the work in their own buildings.
That's awesome. Scott.
Yeah, so how I said in the intro that we were a growing district, so we had some redevelopment. Being right outside the city of Pittsburgh, we are a sought out area just for convenience to downtown and to the Pittsburgh International Airport. So this project allowed me and our team the time to really focus on new families. And what I considered new families for this project were families that did not start kindergarten with us, that moved in anytime during the educational journey, K-6. We have a great program for kindergarten transition, but if you move in December of your kindergarten year or September of your first grade year, you don't get that same rich experience as a new family until you switch buildings again. So we were able to meet through this project and really ask families, what do you wish you had? What were you unsure of? What took you time to get to know that we could do a better job? Just like the other two principals said, it was really about listening and letting the parents do the talking. And through that, we found out basically that the parents felt very supported by their homeroom because we're self-contained classrooms, but they didn't necessarily know who was in their neighborhood. We have 5 communities that make up the Avonworth School District. So when we started this, we thought maybe we just make a homeroom, parent club and try to develop that. But using feedback loops, we kept going back to our targeted, quote, I say new families, well, asking them, will this work? What are your thoughts? And we ended up with the bridge builders and having parents, existing parents, offer to be a connection point for new families, and we organized that by community. So we asked parents to make a 2-year commitment. And we went through the role as a bridge builder, what that would look like. And now we have a handout that we give with central registration for any family that's coming in after the start of the first year in kindergarten through the start of 6th grade. So right now, as soon as they register, they get once that's turned in, they get their bridge builder information, and they're immediately connected with somebody that's in their local, one of the 5 communities that makes up Avonworth. And what I learned through this, or what was very powerful, was again, having that dedicated time to go back and get that feedback. So not only did we interview those new families, but then we took back our handout, the Bridge Builder handout that you'll see in the chat. We took that back to them, and they gave suggestions of how to improve it. So it was a very collaborative approach, but also, again, my role as an administrator was I was listening. And that's one thing that I've learned with Parents Allies in this project with LSX.
Yeah, and these are points that come up in the policy brief too, that we'll talk about a little bit more later, which is providing that time for the listening, right? That's so key. Let me go to the fellows who were not in Pennsylvania to start, but we had that moment in March where everyone did come back together and we were there at the schools. I wonder if you might be able to share what that experience meant to you and how it affected the way that you were building out these tools and resources.
I can jump in and it really just launched our progress. We had started out in the few months before going to Pittsburgh, brainstorming, hearing some of what came up in these empathy interviews and trying to figure out what might make the most sense, what is kind of what's approachable for us to do remotely as a group by the end of this year. But getting to Pittsburgh and being able to talk to families, present our preliminary ideas, we got such useful feedback. The map, we had a version of the map in Duquesne before getting there, and really transformed it and brought it much to the next level because of feedback from parents. We also got really good information that helped drive the Lockley Resource Hub, what was there, what order the information showed up in, just extra confirmation that this was really important because of the differences in communication from classroom to classroom. This kind of centralizes information flow at the school. And then also hearing from parents and their own brainstorming about what they would like to, what they would have liked to, what information they might have liked to get once they first moved to a neighborhood, what information they think other parents might want. So, none of us being from the community, we know what we might be looking for in our own neighborhoods, but hearing, sports teams being reminded about childcare needs, things like that. And so in each place, we just got such good information from parents in really short amounts of time. I mean, it wasn't like long sit downs with people, and it transformed what we were able to do with the project.
I'll jump in next.
Please.
So one thing, and I kind of mentioned this on the video earlier, is we as administrators or parent facilitators, we bring to the table our knowledge, our content knowledge that we've learned. But what we have to learn to do is to be what Scott has said many times is a better listener to find out what parents want. They want to be heard. They want to be understood. And so with this fellowship, it was an opportunity to sit with parents and really listen and hone in on exactly what their needs are. And I think the tools that we created is focused on what they said they wanted. Their ideas, giving them that voice. So that is what I kind of take away from this is coming back to my community and giving to the administrators and all here is stop being that person say we're going to do this for the parents, but no, have a listening session with parents and let them talk, not a griping session, but just a listening session to find out exactly what they need. To find out that the parents really wanted to connect with each other was very important because most of the times it's like Scott said, we have the little hubs in the classroom or you have your neighbor right there next to you, but having that local connection and, with someone in your community really helps a lot. So being a better listener, that's what we have to be.
It definitely give us a lot of clarity because when we started the projects, there were like these infinite possibilities of what the end products could be. And when we already have an idea, it was again a lot of different iterations or like how the end product could look like. And when we were talking in person with the families, we were able to identify which were the most urgent needs. And also we realized that we were in the right track. For example, for the map in the cane, some people already wanted to keep our first draft because it was already very useful for them. So we realized that we were building something they wanted, which was incredible.
Yeah, that's a good sign, right? Susie, I know you weren't able to join us in Pittsburgh and we missed you very much, but your work as a researcher looking at co-design with families really informed the brief that we've published with you and others. I don't know if you just might want to add a little bit of what you've experienced when you bring parents and educators together to talk and listen to each other.
Sure. And before I do that, answer that question, I just want to go back to what Sheila, Scott, and I think everybody has been saying about listening and the power of listening. I think that is also one of the central components of co-design methodologies, participatory research methods, to really think about how do we collaborate with families, especially nothing against AI. There's a lot of colleagues that are doing AI, but in a world with a constant AI messaging, I think the power of listening to the people in the community is so powerful. And I think we're sort of missing that with the AI driven tools and decisions. And I love that this fellowship really highlights this idea of like we're listening to the families. And even when I was talking, when the first session that we have listening to Scott over the Zoom, and Tabitha and Erica, they were doing amazing things, and I think we were all validating what they were doing instead of saying you have to do more. And I think that is critical again with this idea of this new world with the AI decisions. That I think validating and listening to the families, I think it's needed more now than ever. And I think that also tells us with the research as well. Family has been in the research and family engagement has been going on for the past couple of years, but I think now more than ever is really needed to think about instead of going directly to the tech tool. Yes, let's use the tech tool to add some value, but how do we start listening to the families first so that we can understand what they want? Because here we are thinking they might need something fancy, expensive, and high tech. And all they need is a wonderful map that Miros was talking about. Like they already loved it because it was designed with them in mind and listening to their needs through the interviews that Scott was doing, to the conversations that Erica was having, and Tabitha was the engagement that she was having with her family. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I just wanted to highlight that before.
Yeah, thank you so much, Susie. We're getting so many good questions. So I was going to note in 5 minutes, we're going to move into a deeper conversation with the whole, with all the webinar attendees and get to many of these great questions that are coming. And we also have a little poll that in about 5 minutes we'll put up for everyone who's here on this webinar as well. Let me ask maybe one more question, and we'll just go around among all 7 of you with this. This was, this is an unusual, I said kind of in the video, this is an experiment, right? This is an unusual situation to bring together people who are working in schools, who have like crazy busy schedules already, right? Working in schools, with those who are mid-career, have already had a lot of success in communicating and doing research and building new products and thinking about how to engage in new audiences. And we did it in about 9 months, right? In a kind of a very condensed time frame. So just reflecting on that, I'd love to hear what you all what are some other learnings that you have from this process, or that are going to help you think about what our education system needs, or what you yourself need in your work. Just any kind of learnings, aha moments that came by being part of this 9-month fellowship process.
I can speak for me. So many times, like you said, in education, we're moving fast. Our students have lots of needs, and we try to do everything. The teachers are doing everything for their kids, the administrators. And if you slow down and give the parents what they need, it's not that they don't want to help. It's not that they can't help. Give them what they need, give them the information, and they will help. They want to be an active participant in their child's education. You just have to create that stage, that platform to work together and trust each other to do it. And working with all of the fellows, I mean, I could just say collaboration creates a stronger solution. We can't think of everything. So not only working with our parents and our teachers and our principals, but working with educators and non-educators, that's what strengthened all of our projects. So thank you, everybody, for everything you did.
I think to kind of piggyback off of you, Tabitha, just the collaboration with even just our 3 school districts, like we all kind of have like similar issues and similar challenges in just coming together in order to talk about that, and seeing, and listening again to what our parents need to kind of move forward. Because everybody wants, including parents and the community, wants everybody to be successful, our students to be successful, and we need to have trusting relationships. So even if I don't have an answer, to reach out to a nearby school district, because they might have the similar challenge, or, bring in some parents, kind of like, let's see what's happening, let's kind of work through this problem and kind of make them a partnership in the challenges that we face.
I think for me, it was definitely just learned, like, don't be afraid to ask. The other project that I worked on was Profile in the Video, just a simple calendar redesign.
Yeah.
I've worked at Avonworth my entire professional career, and that is the same template we've had. I never thought to think that there might be something else out there, but when we brought the new families together that had other school experiences, they've said right away, we're like, we don't know what a square or circle means. We just want to know for childcare purposes, do I have school today or do I not? So for 20 years, we never asked that question. So we kept doing the same thing. So, just listening, having that. And now we have a template that we can use every year. And we got feedback on that. So I think I really learned is, what are other things I can ask parents about? And I think it was mentioned earlier by another person, like, what does what do you want for open house? What do you want for curriculum night? And get that feedback, because I think so often we're always giving things and we think that we're doing the right thing, which I don't think any of us are doing anything bad, but if we never get feedback, we just keep doing the same things. We keep doing open house the same way. We keep doing reading night the same way, but that might not be what the families want. So just being able to ask and then being open to their feedback, just go have fun. So we, made the bridge builders and we made a different calendar, and now that's what we have. So that's what I've learned.
I'll say also, I mean, Lisa, you described this as a condensed time frame, and like, yes, we came together over the course of an academic year, and it's complicated to fit all of our schedules around communal meeting times, and planning visit to Pittsburgh from all over, including internationally. But in some ways, this project helped people slow down too, right? Like these projects on their own could have been done much more quickly. But I think because we had the entire school year to keep coming back to it, we kept revising. We didn't have to revise the Duquesne map as many times as we did. We didn't have to redesign it after parents saw it in March when we visited, but we did, and it made it better. And the Padlet, the resources that you got in there and the little tweaks that were made, and the kind of thinking that went into the bridge builders and what we hoped people would get out of it, that all benefited from time to kind of percolate and slowly improve over time. And so it could have been done faster. And I think a better resources are going to make it to parents for the start of the next school year, because these school leaders gave themselves permission to hold on to something instead of rushing it out to parents as soon as there was, the least best thing that we could put out.
I just want to,
Go ahead.
I wanted to build on what everybody was saying. Again, it's going back to like this idea of like, there's new technology, AI is happening, but we can't really assume that more technology means better engagement. And I think this fellowship has really showed that. They already have, like Scott mentioned, we already had a calendar, and we just needed to ask questions. We needed to conduct this empathy interviews to understand the families better. And I think there's something that we continue to miss in the district. In school institutions, we're moving too fast. People move too fast and they want the best new shiny toy that comes out. But I really think going back to basics when it comes to families is really needed. I think many low tech formats, again, the calendar, the map, those are things that can be easily adapted to different home languages, to different cultural familiar formats, that we don't really need the fancy high technology. And I think that's at least what I continue to learn as I read research that is being put out there, but also as I conduct research with families and as I continue to engage with the people doing boots on the grounds like Scott, Tabitha, and Erica. Like, I can't necessarily not more technology means better engagement. Is how do we all come together to really think about what are the best tools and resources that we can provide to families.
I like that you said that too, because it doesn't have to be fancy. School districts are always struggling with, funding and finding grants and budget. Nothing we did was fancy. Nothing was fireworks. And that's for classroom teachers too. Sometimes it's just taking the step to invite them in to sit alongside their child, get to know your face, sending home that postcard, or doing something like we did. It doesn't have to be fireworks and fancy. It doesn't have to have all the technology. It just is something simple that can make a big difference.
So true.
And that's pretty much what I was going to say from Susie, is that we worked together to create a tool that was pretty simple. We just really took what was out there and kind of reinvented it a little bit for parents to understand, but based on what they needed. And then all of us came with different skill sets that really enhanced this work. Meryl's with her she was very tech savvy. Tara with her background with this creative background, and mine just knowing about family engagement, and Susie with her research. So I think that cohesiveness of what we brought together to create such a simple tool, it's something that can be replicated anywhere. Anyone can do this, using Canva, the tool that was used for the map. It's very simple. So I think it's something that can be just spread abroad. It's very simple, but it's also very useful. And that's what one thing as educators we have to understand. All the fancy things that shine and have that bling are not always good for us. So look for not the shiny things, look for the simple things that will help the parents. Not, just another thing to say, okay, we look good. Looking good doesn't mean it feels good or is good for us.
Right. Maris, I want to give you a chance to say something, then we're going to go to the poll for everyone.
So following up on the technology conversation, I also believe that during the process, it's also important to have digital tools that are accessible to everyone, that have very low learning curves, so everyone can have a say during the process. That was the case, for example, when we were designing these tools, we use Canva, for example, for the graphic design. So it was very easy for everyone, even if they have not a lot of experience using the software, to start learning and commenting things and making this process like a really peer exchange where different ideas collide and we were able to learn from each other. So I think that's also very important, not just in the end result, but also during the process, to use tools that everyone can access easily.
That's a great point that I can add too, that we found that out during our empathy interviews. We found out a lot of our families do not have computers at home or do not have jobs where they're using computers daily. So they were using their cell phones. And when we were putting stuff in our student information system or on our website, it wasn't user friendly to the cell phone view. So that's how we came across using the Padlet, because it could scroll on a cell phone much easier. So that was a great point.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, we're going to, I want you guys all to stay if you can after the poll, stay back or come back on screen. I'm not sure actually. Yes, here's how it works. Okay, good. You guys are still on screen. We wanted our audience to just reflect a little bit and answer a couple of these questions for us. The first is thinking about your community, what drives your desire for better family engagement. And I put up here a couple of options that typically have come up in our conversations, but there might be other reasons as well. And then the second question is asking about this feedback loop. Does your school or your district have a way to gather feedback from parents and to create a new tool or solution and then test that with parents? So that's a simple yes, no, or not sure. And whenever you're ready, Sarah, we can show the results. I can maybe spark some additional discussion. And I'm seeing here, if they're going to show up on screen once they're complete. I'm also wanted to note, it's so exciting to see so many good questions in the Q&A. So please continue there, and we're going to moderate the Q&A here in just a moment. And I should lastly note that the Learning Sciences Exchange, we're in active work to figure out our next cohort of fellows. So if your community or your district is interested in bringing this model, we would love to talk to you. Okay, so I'll go to, while we're waiting, maybe to see the answers to, oh, here we go. Here are the answers to the questions. Hopefully you all can see this. It looks like for those who answered the first question about what drives your desire for better family engagement, we have that absenteeism is there, but at about 19% of you said that. 34% said it's about helping parents gain a sense of belonging in the school. And the highest was enabling educators and parents to talk about shared goals for their students and children. And I'll note that in the research that's in our brief, that shared goals, that point about shared goals comes up many times in many of the studies over the years. Okay, and then this question about whether your school district has a way to gather feedback from parents, to have this kind of testing of new approaches. It looks like a good third of you may have something like that in place, so it'll be exciting to hear more about that. But that many of you are either not sure, or maybe there isn't this in place in your school community yet. So hopefully this will incentivize you to think about ways to do more of that. Great, thank you, Yuling, for coming back to join us for the questions here. I noticed, and maybe I'll go to you, Yuling, for the first couple. There are several questions that that relate to how to do this kind of work without necessarily a lot of funding. There was a question, how do you kind of sustain this without a huge amount of funding and resources? And then also how to do this in different kinds of communities. So there was someone who asked, can this be done in rural communities? And I know Parents as Allies is across a wide swath of Pennsylvania. So you may have some insights there for us, Yuling, on those questions.
Yes, these are excellent questions. So I will start by sharing that the templates are available through Parents as Allies, everything that we've used. So anyone's welcome to use it and use it in their community. One of the lessons that we learned from the 2021 cohort is you want to start small. Quality matters. Don't try to go big. We learned our first year that we had some school teams that tried to activate an idea across the entire district, all these different school buildings. And it didn't go as well as the teams that activated something within a school building and then expanded from there. And so I look at these 3 school districts that are here today, and they all started at a specific building, worked with parents in that building, worked with the educators in that building, implemented ideas, did the listening sessions in that school community. And then it started to take root in other school buildings as time went on. So that's my first piece of advice. We've found this works. It doesn't matter if you're an urban school or a rural school. It comes down to listening. And again, what matters is the team you put together and making sure that different voices are represented on the team.
Yeah, and maybe related to this is just a bit more on the mechanics of how this can work. There's a question about, and maybe Scott, you can start this one, about how often you have roundtables or how often you can set up these kinds of feedback moments with parents. And then also, I think these kinds of tools can be useful for everyone. What are the ways that you collect feedback? But Scott, do you want to talk about the roundtables a little bit to get us started?
Sure. And I think overall, like Yuling said, like we were very intentional about who was on our team. But then with each one of these sort of problems of practice that we went through, or we were very specific on the target audience. So I saw in one of the questions was like, how do you make sure you're getting all voices? Well, we were very specific. So for one of the projects I worked on with the Avonworth team, we went to those new families. We specifically targeted those families. Another project that wasn't profiled on the webinar, we were looking at families with different cultural backgrounds. So we specifically went and asked, a population for feedback that was meaningful to them. I have moved away from doing whole, surveys through Google, or SurveyMonkey, because you're not getting, usually response rate's not high. And then you're probably not getting those families that you really want to hear from. And that's something that I learned real early on with Parents as Allies was you have to be very intentional and you have to go target, those families that aren't at the table. And I think that's, where the most success has been. As far as feedback at roundtables, nothing set scheduled. We had an idea, we threw it out, we got some parents together. One strategy that I try is I try to hold it twice a day. So, if families are able to do it at drop off, we held something at 8:45 to 9:15 because a lot of families do drop off, but we also replicated that same session in the evening in person or using a Zoom link, and just thinking just more creative about how we gather feedback. It doesn't always have to be a 7 o'clock PTA meeting. Or I saw that, in the chat a little bit about board meetings, and that's the only voice that we hear. So we were very specific, about trying to go and find feedback from those populations.
Yeah, and one thing I'll note, Scott, that you've reminded me of, and then I'm curious if others have some input on this. When we put together the recommendations at the end of the brief that we've just published, one of those recommendations, and this is informed by Yuling's input and experience as well, is to not necessarily use all the traditional measures of whether you're engaging families, but to think about some non-traditional ones. So your point, Scott, about the surveys for uncommon measures. See, it's everywhere, Yuling, it's everywhere. this point that maybe it's not about how many people took a survey or, how many people attended an event, but instead who was at that event and what kind of information could be gathered to help these students because of those relationships. I don't know if others want to maybe jump in and talk a little bit about that. Or go get a Uncommon Measures mug like Scott has, so it's a reminder.
An uncommon measure for something we've done with Pittsburgh before is we have a larger group of Spanish speaking students moving into our district the last couple of years. So one of our targeted audience was our Spanish speaking students and families for another project we were working on. And we had a new family to the district, and they did come to this. We had a movie night where we played the movie in English, subtitles in Spanish, family photos, and all of that. But an uncommon measure from that is a family that we never saw at anything else. The next event not only showed up with mom, dad, and grandma, had their camera because we were doing family photos there. They brought their camera and they were taking pictures of all the students, and then they gave me their pictures because they were proud that they were part of it. So an uncommon measure was a family I never met at something else participated in that one event and then showed up on their own for another event that we were doing. So that was an uncommon measure, and they showed up ready to help with their camera and participate actively. So that was wonderful.
One thing that I always dwell on when working with families is that all families care. And we just have to understand their stories, understand their backgrounds. And because a lot of times working in schools over the years, I've heard people say, oh, the parents don't care about their children, they're not involved. And it's mostly because they don't understand what is needed. We're the educators. Again, we have that book knowledge. We went to college for that. And so we have to understand the stories. And like someone mentioned earlier, a lot of times parents are kind of, don't want to go into the schools because they don't know what to say or how they will be handled from the educators who are in the school, if they will be talked down to, or they have some lived experiences that have caused them to be kind of tainted to go into the schools. So when we go back and say, okay, all parents care. I always set that tone when I'm talking to anyone, my students or whomever, they care. They just need to understand what to do. And we are here to listen again to their needs, understand their stories, and get into that space of understanding again. Put our boots on the ground. That's the thing now. Put our boots on the ground to listen to their voices and just show that we're here to help, want to involve them in any decision-making processes that are out there, or just again to elevate their stories, to let them be involved and know that we want them in the schools because it's ultimately their child, they're our customers. And so we need them. And we have to change our mindset that no, they don't care. It's about my school. No, it's their school. It's a community. And we're all working together to do what's best for the children.
You're getting a lot of love, Sheila, in the chat on that. There's a question that came in. It's kind of sideways related, but I think it's a really interesting question. So I want to pose this one. This is from someone who's an elected official, and they're really hearing this point about you need to be listening, but also can be faced with the situation where those who kind of complain that they weren't listened to are really basically saying, oh, you just didn't do what I want you to do. And I feel that too, right? I recognize that it can be, and there's also so many different viewpoints out there. So listening to all of them then means having to make decisions. But I wonder if any of you might want to respond to this question from that elected official who's just saying, what is an effective way for schools to communicate that we do hear you, but we're not always able to do exactly what you're asking for?
I think it's important, and we had an example of this in our project. It's important to ask questions and seek feedback that you really do plan to use. So it's not an open question, what do you want out of the school? But it's, look at this map. Can you tell me what you would do with it? To test out whether it's giving people the information that they could use to hear what they're looking for. to give them chances to chime in about, what would be the best part of a Bridge Builders program, or what should be on the Padlet. Like when you ask questions, that their feedback really will inform behavior. That's a way, to make parents feel like they want to keep contributing because they are being heard and you are taking action. And so I think an important piece is just narrowing the question to make sure that they don't feel like their time is wasted by contributing insights and feedback, because you can't do, anything they come up with, but you can incorporate their feedback on specific concrete projects.
I think one thing that's helpful is in the playbook for Parents as Allies, it talks about hacks and, what's something that you can just go and try with a small group of people. And I think through these projects, we were able to do these feedback loops, and then you're able to use that because it wasn't my idea or your idea. It was a collective group of people working on something. So real quick, we were able to say, oh, here's what we have. This was generated by our group. So then it's not me just saying something. It gives it more weight, and just really doing those mini prototypes or short cycle feedback sessions is really gives a lot of power, because it's not a random idea. It's, we tried this, we heard you, we're going to try a little bit in this grade level or this building or this one community, and then we can scale it ourselves versus just doing a blanket something for the district that may not be what people want.
I agree with what Scott and Tara said, and I'll just add to it. I remember a school district in the Parents as Allies, and they wanted to do a listening session, and they did it through fire pit conversations. So they set up 10 fire pits in the parking lot, and different parents and teachers and students came around, and they talked about things that they hoped to see with the school and how they could build deeper relationships. Right. So there was a note taker at every fire pit, and they created a plan from that. And they shared it back to the participants saying, we heard you, we love all these ideas, but we're going to start here because this is what we can do well, and this is where we want to start, and then we will expand. So it's also a way to acknowledge, yes, I hear all these ideas, but we have to start at a certain place. And if you have the feedback loop of your Parents as Allies team mixed with different stakeholders, they become the voices for you in sharing that, yes, we all collectively decided to start here first.
I love that. And there's something about the specificity that you all are pointing to as well. Just that recognition that if you can get kind of narrow to what is the thing what can we bite off right now and chew on right now that is going to be something that we can test in a particular place with a particular context, then you're able to have that kind of co-design experience and that participatory experience where people feel like they've been listened to, right? It's not as broad. As Tara has pointed out, like if you're just saying, what do you want out of your school? You may not actually be able to really deliver on a lot of that. So I know many of you are seeing some of the questions in the chat as well. And if there's anything that's jumping out at you that you'd like to answer, we've just got about 5 more minutes here with all of you. I also want to encourage those who have attended this, who have seen examples of this kind of feedback loop and this kind of cross-sector work in other places. Please share that out as well, because we're looking for as many of these good examples as we can. And you'll see also there's a poll that came up too for the event that we'd love to get your feedback on. So let me maybe jump into one of the questions that came in. That's a very broad one, which is for all of you, the fellows who were part of this experience over this past school year, is there something that's changed from the way you might say, I used to think X, Y, Z, and now I'm thinking this way, or now I think that. Anything that's come to mind for you that's a little bit of a mindset shift that you've had over this past year?
Well, I'll speak again. So I'm one of the I process a lot, and I think, and I'm a person who comes up with a lot of ideas, and so the simplicity of what we did helped me to kind of think, okay, you don't have to do everything. You have to come up with all these ideas. So, and I love that about our team, and how we work together. And that's great for everyone to know that you need a team, a diverse group of people working together, because it kind of help you to think critically and to listen to other ideas. So it helped me to kind of narrow down my thinking, not being all over the place. That's the ADD, ADHD in me, and just change my thought processes. So listen to, especially like with Tara and her ideas, I guess that's reporting and getting to it. That was really good. So that helped me a lot. So I think that's it for me. Just not trying to do everything and not have all the pretty little things on the table, and just keep it simple.
Just quickly emphasizing on Sheila as well, just keep it simple. I mentioned, I think I saw a question about technology from someone about like how do we think more about technology, and I go back to the same, just because we have more technology now than ever, that doesn't mean it's better engagement for families. And I think that also comes to us as well, just because we have all these tools available to us, how do we just keep it simple for the families, to really think about that engagement is relational too, right? We forget about that. It's all about relationship between the families, the collaborators, the school districts. And it's something that it's not super a mind shift for me, but it's something that I like to remind myself when I do this work that I do, both in practice and research. How do we think about family engagement as a relational component, more than like, how do I fix this, or how do I fix this for families, or how do I create something new for families? But it continues to be more about how do we continue to build the relationship with the family so that we can better understand and address their needs.
There's one other.
Oh, yes, please.
There's one other question about the idea that these efforts require a lot of time and funding. These did not require much funding at all. These were mostly free. I mean, our volunteer power, this person describes a volunteer powered family organization district-wide. This required our mostly volunteer time, but the projects themselves, we have printing costs and a Canva Pro subscription for a few months. But otherwise and we paid a translator, but otherwise these were basically free.
Yeah, and putting together, just even the roundtables, paying for some dinners and recognizing ways of kind of compensating those who came together to provide their voices at the early stages. But yeah, these were solutions, so to speak, still going to be tested, and we're still going to kind of learn from them, but they were done on a pretty small budget. And this cross-sector model that's bringing people together who have already got so many kind of assets and talents that are learning from each other while they're also supporting the teams and these new ideas, can really help make this happen. So we encourage communities to think about how to tap into those cross-sector talents in their own communities, and potentially apply this model as well.
I'll just add on that note, one of the things about the Parents as Allies cohort that I appreciated is that the co-leads met with other co-leads and did peer reflection. And so it was almost like they created a support group amongst each other, and they could share ideas and expand and be like, oh, hey, can you share that with me? Can I try that? Or, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Has anybody tried working on this? So, the outside voices, but also your peer voices are important. And I will say the one lesson I learned is you have to go in with no preconceived ideas. I'm constantly amazed by the ideas that are coming up from this dialogue amongst different people. And so if you go in with this idea, like, this is what we're going to do, I'm going to get everyone there, it'll never work.
Yeah. Yeah, you just can't make assumptions about your families, and you can't, you've got to just have an expansive approach, right? And not box yourself in. So I'm going to hand it over now to Sarah to close us out. A huge thank you to you incredible fellows for this work.
I hated to interrupt. I could have listened to you all for another 90 minutes. And I loved how, like, when I opened up this conversation, I was talking about the how and the what. It's, how can we really build these strong, trusting relationships? And you guys have answered that question so beautifully with so many concrete examples of really how you can listen, the many different ways that you can listen and what that looks like, and then how you use it and the impact that it has. So thank you all. Thank you, Lisa, for kind of bringing us together with these fellows, for organizing the Learning Sciences Exchange, and to all of the other panelists for joining us to share these concrete examples about things that you've done and the impact that it's having on your schools and on the family engagement more broadly. As Leah shared when she opened up, today kicks off a ton of summer learning opportunities through our Learning and Engagement Opportunities webinars. This afternoon, we'll be kicking off our month-long Technology Enhanced Teaching and Learning Summer Institute, which will explore innovative new technologies that are helping to close the gap and accelerate equitable learning recovery in classrooms, homes, and across the broader community. The EdTech Institute will culminate during GLR Week, which will run July 28th through August 1st, featuring double headers Monday through Thursday, highlighting targeted big bet interventions and approaches that are advancing early school success for children in economically challenged families. And on the screen there, the session on 3 p.m. July 28th, Monday, Guardrails and Guidelines. Lisa will be back again to join us and moderate that conversation, really hearing from an incredible panel of speakers and commentators about how we can ensure that we are fully leveraging technology while also being careful to ensure that and protect children's well-being and learning at the same time. Thank you to all of you who joined us for today's session and engaged in the chat and in the Q&A. I hope you'll continue to join us for all of these amazing conversations over the summer. What better way to celebrate summer than learning every Tuesday? Thank you again.
Thank you.